Zongbo and welcome to Dawai Kudroen. The reason why we are having Dawai Kudroen on Tuesday, which actually is a feature program on Wednesday, is simply because from tomorrow onwards we'll be starting with the National Council debates. We'll be starting with the National Council debates of Kasa Dzongkhag tomorrow, and then the debates will go on till the 19th of April. That's why we will not be having any slots available for any other programs apart from the National Council elections. And after that, again, we'll be having the National Assembly elections, the primary round, the general elections. So we'll be having all election-related programs, and because of that, it's safe to say that we won't be having Dawai Kudroen till the end of elections. So we have had this program on Tuesday, and my guest tonight is the Honorable President of Bhutan Chamber for Commerce and Industry, Mr. Ugen Tshechup Dorji. Thank you so much for your time, sir. As we have started in Dzongkha, I'll also like to offer you the same opportunity to express your concerns and the problems that you have seen. Trade deficit, the balance of payment issue, and any other issues, the rupee issue that you have raised in Dzongkha. But this time I would request you to keep it a little shorter than what you had in Dzongkha.
Thank you so much, Dawa. Thank you so much. First of all, Dawa, let me thank you for inviting me to your show. I think it's important that the private sector has a forum to express our views so that we're heard by the public of and the citizens of Bhutan. I think it's important that they know the important role that the private sector plays in the development of the economy and the contribution it makes to it also. Just as an information, because the private sector has always been taken as an institute that it almost seems as if we're not contributing to the development of the country. At least that is the perception that a lot of people have. But just for the information of all the people listening to the show, for the internal revenue generation, the private sector is contributing 47% to the internal revenue to take care of the internal expenditure of the government. So I think through the years we've grown quite a lot, and we have started making substantial contribution to the development of our country. And I think it is time that the government and the people, instead of just seeing it as a lip service that the private sector is important, start showing us, start implementing measures that really encourage the private sector. So I'd like to thank Dawa for having me on the show. Secondly, the reason I'm on your show and I'm happy to be expressing my view is that we have been told repeatedly by the government that why is Chamber always so reactive? Why can't you be a proactive organization? Why can't you suggest to the government about things that maybe you do not agree with? So because of that, after I joined as the president, I've initiated some studies which we thought would help a dialogue between the government and the private sector. And we did not know what the outcome of that study would be. So today, what I'm going to say is just to create awareness amongst the viewers and amongst the civil servants and the people in the different districts and also our own private sector. And it's not to blame anybody. Yes. It's not to say this one didn't do his job or that one didn't do his job. It's just to say that this is what our study has found. And if our study is right, because our study has been based on information collected from government documents.
Yes.
It's not information based on something that we have made up. Okay? They have many documents which we collected the information. So I thought it was, the opportunity was needed to make my case to the people. Once the report was ready and it came to us, we in the chamber got very concerned because we saw a trend and we didn't see a way out. This trade deficit that the government has is growing every year. It started from 5.5 billion, then it went up to 17 billion. Today it's at 24 billion. 54 billion is the total imports, 30 billion is the total exports. So we have a trade deficit of 24 billion. Today we have an INR borrowing of 20 billion. No, la. So my concern, because I'm not an economist, la. I'm a businessman. And we put everything into the context of a business proposal for us. La.
And these are not just your views.
No, it's not my views. La. This is, like I said, I'm not here as Ugen Tshechup Dorji. I'm here as the president of Chamber of Commerce and Industries. La.
Yes.
And this is a concern that we have from the private sector, that where do we go from here? We know that the government has said that in 2017, 2018, we're going to have a lot of liquidity. We're going to have a lot of money. Once they start generating the power, we'll be able to sell it to India. But the fact of the matter is, today is 2013. We have 5 to 6 years before we can reach that stage. We have even looked at studies where we've said, okay, if you're going to get certain amount of money in 2017-18, can it take care of the increasing deficit that is being accumulated every year by the government to take care of our trade imbalance? La. But what we've seen is that even if it does take care, it doesn't take care of the entire trade deficit la, and the loans. La. So we're concerned. We hope that the figures we've collected, maybe it's not all complete. Maybe there are some figures that we were not aware of, which if we feed it into it, we'll get a totally different picture. And we hope that government departments or ministries can provide us this information after they hear this talk of mine and say, no, look, Chamber, you've been wrong. These are the informations that you have not had. Please input this information into your to your study and see what figures come out. And I'll be the most happy if I'm proved wrong, la, because then it will mean that we are not heading towards a problem. Yes. I'll be very happy. La. But the reality right now is what we see in front of us. As per the government document, by June 2015, our trade deficit is going to go up to 42 billion. La. Today, our loan is at 20 billion. La. So when you look at figures like that, it starts becoming a concern for you. The government, when they banned all the cars and the beer and the furniture, stopped housing loans, stopped hotel loans, reduced how much money that laborers and contractors can get, has not made much of an impact. La. So that is one concern that we have. And this we feel is being fed on by the hydro projects.
Yes.
We have seen that in our document, it is pointing straight towards hydro projects, because every time we've put in all the data, and we've seen that if we continue with the new projects like Chamkachu, Nikachu, Amachu, Sankosh, if we continue with those programs which the government already has signed MOUs and is in the pipeline to start, we don't see the deficit coming close. We see the deficit even going larger and larger, and we're going to reach a situation where we'll not be able to pay the loans that we've taken. And then we'll be putting ourselves in a very bad situation. Secondly, is the hard currency reserves. A lot of people have indicated, no, but we have, as of present, we have $888 million US. So we sell the $888 million, and therefore, no trade deficit. We have enough money to pay off our loans, everything. But the truth of the matter is that $888 million, $450 million has to be kept as a reserve as per the Constitution for essential imports for 1 year. Secondly, 250 million of that is pledged to the borrowings from SBI and PNB. And $60 million belongs to Kuwait Fund, which is a deposit which we cannot touch. So that only leaves $128 million US. If we ever try to sell it, if we want to sell it, that's all we have to sell. But we have a loan of 20 billion. Every year the loan is growing. More and more imports are taking place because of the hydro construction, because of also the government keeping the hard currency reserves. A donor country gives money to our government, $50 million, to execute certain projects. That money is kept to the government. $50 million worth of BC is then given to the contractors to execute these projects. From the $50 million, 80% of it is then imported from India in the form of INR. So this also is creating the rupee crunch and the trade deficit problem. So these are a lot of issues that I think the government and the private sector have to sit together. Yes. We have to talk about it. We can't have, I think we need to have a 10-year outlook. Today the government has only seen 5 years from now. They've only looked at up till 2015. 2014-15, where is the trade deficit, what is the balance of payment. They've only looked up to that date. They have not. Why don't we look beyond that? I think it's important to educate the private sector, to educate the people, to educate our youth, and let them know, are we secure? Is the economy secure? Let us know. Don't hide it from us, because hiding it from us creates more fear, no.
Yes.
And maybe what we are learning, is not right. And because of that confusion, maybe more fear is created. So creating fear in a small market is not good, no. So we need to educate the people. And what we are seeing is the Chamber of Commerce is here,
yes,
representing the entire business community of Bhutan. We would like to be the conduit between the government and the people to pass on the correct messages,
yes,
But because of the lack of information that we have, we had a lot of difficulty collecting the information we had to get. Most of the government departments and ministries don't want to give us information. Even though we're telling them that we're compiling these reports to see whether our future is secure, whether we're in a good position, our economy is in a good position. Please give us this information. We're not getting it. So what we're saying is, let us put our heads together. We have a lot of intelligent people in the private sector, so does the government. Why can't we get together, work as a team, and then try and find a solution for the benefit of our future generation? I think that is most important. So today, the reason why I'm on this show, Dawa, is to at least create a little bit of awareness that everything is not as comfortable as we see it. The reports that we have with us, the trade deficit, the balance of payment is also negative. Current account deficit is also negative. The borrowings are growing. So all these are big concerns for us, Dawa. Big concerns.
Yes, sir. I think you summed up everything, and sometimes listening to you, I even felt that there was no need for me to ask any questions. But to move on, I think one of the concerns, these are all the concerns that you have found out from the documents that you have received from the government. Now, concern that you have raised, if it all be genuine, you said you are ready for dialogue. If you could also come up with, have you also thought of some of the solutions that you can offer to the government, whoever party is going to form the next government, solutions that would be needed? Because one of the reports that I found out mentioned that bailing out private sector has created all this rupee problems. Is one of the major contributors of this rupee problem is because of bailing out private consumption?
No, I don't think that the rupee problem is created by bailing out, because bailing out would be a very, very minute. First of all, I don't agree with bailing out. Only if it's genuine cases where policy changes affected the business person, or because of certain government rules and regulations it affected the business person, then you should look at that. But if it is because of the carelessness of the business person, if it is because of his own non-ability to do business well, I don't think government should be bailing out business people. Business people know when they get into business, it's either profit or loss. No. So if it's a loss, if 100% I'm assured all the time that whether profit or loss I'm going to get bailed out, then every business person is going to be very comfortable starting any type of business.
Yes.
No. But the way forward we see is, first of all, the hydro projects. I think there has to be a re-evaluation by the government as to whether we should continue at this rapid pace of progress for hydro projects.
Yes.
No doubt hydro projects is a big boon for the country. No doubt it is going to go a long way in the development of the country. And we cannot afford to stop hydro projects in Bhutan. But shouldn't we look at the pace that we're doing it at? I think it's important to look at that, because there is a trend in the report that we prepared, that every time in 2000, before Tala came online, after Tala came online, and before Ugen Tshechup came online, there was a gap. In that gap, you see that the income and the expenses almost aligned. There was hardly any deficit. The moment Ugen Tshechup started, you see again this huge trade deficit growing and growing and growing. And if we continue on this path, like I said, it is going to grow to such an unmanageable stage that is going to actually affect the future of our future generation. So what we propose is reevaluate the hydro projects, space it out. Secondly, what you have also today is that the delayed payment also is causing a lot of problems. for the hydro projects. Because what happens is, because of the delayed payments, you have to arrange payments to the contractors. So sometimes you have to take loans to pay the contractors. Other times what happens is also the projects also designed very front heavy. It's front loaded. It's loaded very much in the front, where what I'm saying is that the money is only coming later. So any contractor executing the program and the contract has to take a borrowing from the banks. The loan that has to be paid back for this purchasing of trucks or excavators or any other equipment is deferred for 10 years. So that in itself creates this again, because you're again bringing in a lot of INR which you don't have in your hand. No. So yes. Maybe you need to say, okay, for the hydro projects, we'll give an advance of 40, 50%, 30%, 40%, whatever. That will help the contractor secure purchases with the money that is coming from outside. No. So the money coming from outside, you buy, send it back. But instead of that, the money is not coming. So in the meantime, you take more money to borrow. That creates again the INR deficit issues. And I think the other thing is that the government needs to fast track licenses. If you see, like I've mentioned, the private sector is one of the is growing to become one of the biggest contributors to government revenue. So therefore, it means that the private sector has the capacity to grow.
Yes.
But because of the present situation, in the past, if everything was, the trade deficit wasn't so high, we can carry on going at the same pace that we were going before.
Yes.
Where licenses take 6-7 months to issue. The government carries out all the due diligence so that they are sure that they're not making any mistakes when they're giving licenses. All those are okay. But given the present situation, where the trade deficit is growing at such a pace, where the government borrowing is growing at such a pace, where INR is becoming such an issue for the country, it means we have to now reevaluate. We have to relook at how we start doing business. And we have to say, okay, immediately, export-oriented businesses, let's fast-track it. Let's see how we can give them their license as fast as possible. Let's see how we can coordinate and give them loans as fast as possible. Land lease. All these issues need to be relooked at. Import substitutes. Anyone who wants to do import substitute immediately should be encouraged. So anybody who has the potential to export or import substitute, the government should say, okay, let's fast-track this system so that these people can be doing business in another 1 year, 1.5 years' time. But if you don't do that, and if you just let the process go on as of today,
yes,
then we are going to face some problems.
So now you have just pointed out so many solutions to all these problems. Why now? Shouldn't all these solutions have been given to the government a little earlier by BCCI, maybe by your predecessor?
No, I think...
or did it ever happen?
No, like I said, only March 2012, the INR issue and the balance of payment issue came up, right? And then after that, followed by measures, drastic measures of the government banning a lot of products, curbing on expenses of INR. So all these issues came up at that time. Before that, like I said, we knew there was a problem, but it was managed okay. Anyone wanted INR, it was released. So everyone was doing their business. There were requests from the private sector that the government should give export-oriented businesses, manufacturing sector, licenses, but it wasn't felt as an urgent sort of exercise. But today it's an urgent exercise. We need to put it into place as soon as possible. And what we're saying is that people shouldn't look at it as only helping the big business people. Because business growth has to take place equally. Big, medium, small. The rural sector is also a very, very important part of the economic growth of the country, because they comprise 70% of the population. If they don't grow, if they don't become richer, then the overall country will not grow. So we have to join hands. The private sector, big businesses, medium businesses, small businesses have to join hands together. They have to join hands with the rural people also, work together to building up businesses in Bhutan so that we can contribute substantially to the economic development of the country.
So you as a president, honestly, please tell us whether our private sector is growing or not. Forget about government support, forget about all the issues that you have pointed out, the concerns that you have pointed out, but honestly, do you think private sector in Bhutan is growing? Don't you think we have more players than the size of the market that we have? For a small size of market that we have, don't you think we have too many players?
I don't think so. In fact, I think we have less players. See, Dawa, look at it. When you look at the private sector, let's think back 10 years ago.
Yes.
You know, contractors were scared to even look at contracts that were around 300 million.
Yes.
Any contract that was 300 million, wow, it's too big for me. I don't have enough bank guarantee. I don't have enough security deposit. Today, something that is around close to around 600 million, 6 billion, 60 crores, all the not an issue. People don't bat an eyelid. Look at the shops. Before, in most places, of course, there are still a lot of places in Bhutan that development needs to take place.
Yes.
There are a lot of private sector that needs to be helped. They're still very small-time businesses and they need to grow. But if you look at the percentage increase of businesses in Bhutan, there's been a huge percentage increase. And that can be seen by the contribution that the private sector is making. 15 years ago, I think we were contributing only around 10% to the government revenue. Today, we're contributing 47% to the government revenue, Dawa. Huge, substantial growth. So that shows that the private sector is growing and the capacity and the capability is there in the private sector.
Yes. So, what are the major policy changes that you'd expect, if at all there are? Any changes that you'd expect for the further growth and development of private sector?
I think one of the most important is the coordination between the ministries. You know, I think if there's a government policy that says private sector is important, then that should be the focus by all ministries. All ministries' agenda should focus on importance of private sector.
Not just the Ministry of Economic Affairs.
So if it's the Ministry of Economic Affairs or the government per se, you know, say the cabinet says that it's important that the private sector is given, is the engine of growth and that needs to be given this fuel. Like I've said, the fuel can't be mixed, no?
Yes.
The fuel that runs an engine, if it's a petrol engine, should be all petrol. So if it's Ministry of Labour, Ministry of Home, Ministry of Economic Affairs, Foreign Ministry through its embassies abroad, all have to focus on promoting the private sector, no? So the fuel has to be petrol. So it can't be Finance Ministry giving us kerosene, Home Ministry giving us diesel and somebody else giving us LPG and putting it in a car and expecting the car to run. I don't think that is how things work. So what we expect and hope that the new government will consider is working cohesively, working together as one unit, the government working as one unit to look at private sector as the engine of growth, and that will provide the opportunities and the jobs to our youth and will contribute substantially to the economic growth of the country.
And the BCCI would also work hand in hand with the government.
Of course. That is
I think we have had enough of finger pointing at each other.
Exactly.
We have had that blame game for quite some time.
No, we don't want to blame because blaming doesn't help anybody. You know, we are here to work closely with the government. We are saying that we've already said that the Chamber of Commerce, through its private sector, have enough resources that can be proactive, that can provide information to the government. Government needs to involve us, but government needs to say, okay, we're having this policy discussion, please come. And when we take part in that policy meeting, we need the government to also listen to us, no? It's not just as a participant and at the end of the day, Chamber was also there
as an
endorsement.
Yes.
As an endorsement to the policy they make according to what they want done. That should not be the case. They should take the suggestions of the private sector seriously. Because I think the private sector are also serious people. We're not in it just for ourselves. I think we have very patriotic private sector. I have made a comment, Dawa, in the newspapers, I'm sure you have followed, that the private sector consider ourselves as second-class citizens. Because that again is the perception. That is what we are made to feel like. But we are not.
Yes.
We want to contribute equally to the development of our country. We are patriotic to the core. We love our country and we'll do anything. Profit is secondary. Being a citizen of the country is number one for us, even in the private sector. So
you're not always going to go for any meetings or for any decisions with personal agenda in mind?
No, why should we? I'm sure the government, when we put up our proposal, should weigh what are the proposals Chamber is giving. Yes. Does it have a vested interest? Does it have a personal interest? Or is it for the sake of the economy as a whole, on the private sector as a whole? I think the government people are intelligent enough to understand that. But don't call us just to get the endorsement that Chamber was there and later on, say this policy is here now in place and it had the endorsement of the Chamber. I think that is a very unfair thing to do.
Yes.
We would like to partake as equal partners with the government.
Yes.
We would like to contribute equally, and we can do that.
Yes. And just a final question, so excise duty refund that you have had
Yes.
talked about in one of the meetings, I was told, was that there are some views that we have gathered which say that if excise duty refund is given to the private sector, then it's the big business firms that would benefit, and the small firms may not actually benefit. Even if they benefit, the benefits would be very marginal. Keeping that in mind, why not leave it with the government and make it as government revenue so that the whole nation benefits? Is one of the talks that
But Dawa, we're not saying that the government should sacrifice anything.
Yes.
With the new excise proposal, what we're saying is that government will still get their the revenue that they're collecting directly from the government of India right now.
Yes.
So right now they're getting a refund for 2010. They're getting a refund of 1.5 billion. They'll still be getting that.
Yes.
So the government is not going to be compromised on the revenue earning that they're doing from excise duty. But what it will in turn do is today every business person, when they go and shop from India, has to pay an excise duty. And the excise duty right now, average Bhutanese business person has to pay is 11.1%.
Yes.
So what we're proposing is that this 11.1% not be paid at source.
Yes.
So we don't pay it in India. Nepal already has this trade agreement with government of India, where the Nepalese business people do not pay the excise duty at source. But what we are proposing is that government of Bhutan impose an excise duty at the point of entry, which is lower than what the government of India is right now imposing. So there's a direct benefit to the business people in Bhutan. Now what we're saying is anybody who imports the raw materials and uses it to value add and export it back to India should get the refund.
Okay.
See, so we should not look at this as big and small. See. This is the big problem that is taking place today.
So size does not matter.
We should look at it as the contribution to the economy. If it contributes to the economy, it will take care of a lot of the trade deficit that we have.
Yes.
It will take care of a lot of the borrowings that we have. And indirectly, it will benefit the country and thereby benefit all the people living in Bhutan there.
Yes.
So don't look at it as it's going to benefit big, it's not going to benefit small. Will it benefit the country as a whole is the issue that we should look at.
Yes. So my director is shouting in my ears that we have, time is already up, but maybe I'll take last 30 seconds, and if you could wrap up within that 30 seconds, way forward, do you see the silver lining behind the dark clouds that you have pointed out?
No, I think if the government and the Chamber of Commerce can put our heads together and look for a solution, I see a silver lining. There are a lot of ways to get ourselves out of this problem that we have, issues that we have. I'm not saying that it is dark everywhere. There is a way out. But we have to sit together, we have to work together, and if we work together, we can find a solution.
Working as a Bhutanese.
Yes, working as Bhutanese,
Yes.
and not as business and government.
Okay. On this note, I think you summed up very well. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank
With
you
this,
so
we
much.
come to the end of Dawai Kudroen. From tomorrow onwards, we would request all our viewers to enjoy watching the National Council debates. And after the debates, we'll be bringing you panel discussions with the candidates, involving the audience or the voters with some questions. So keep watching the election as it progresses. Thank you so much for watching Dawai Kudroen. Thank you.